go in 3. Zingy zingy zoo zaba ziba daba ba daba ba 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 ba. Hey everybody, welcome to another tropical episode of Small Town Failing Podcast. That just came to me like as we were doing it. I am your host Joe, joined once again, I want to say for the 6th time potentially.
I think so. Sure.
One Mr. Evan Slead
Hello.
is back in the house, as we say around here. People say it's the house, and you're in it.
Did they say, do you around your neck of the woods, did they say in the house or in the house?
In the house, because, you know, I'm 45-year-old living in the suburbs. It's the words that we toss out.
Well, we lived through the 80s and 90s, so I feel like that's a right of ours.
It is. Yeah. I had no intentions of talking about this, but I'm curious now that you mentioned that. Like, I feel like there's a big push right now, especially for like the 90s, for a lot of like things to come back. And in my eyes, like I always think about fanny packs and mullets, which were two things we made fun of back in the 90s. But now it almost feels like they've kind of come back and no one remembers that like they weren't a good thing back then. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like everything was so smart, but it was like nerdy or dumb. Yeah. And honestly, it's kind of frustrating because now like kids that I teach are like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm like, literally, I would have been destroyed if I did that.
Exactly. Right. You know? Like, that's what I find like kind of funny, that like all the stuff that we would have, you know, just tortured the shit out of kids for
100%.
Now is like, you know, cool, which, you know, it's funny. It's like, it reminds me of like, what was that, Demolition Man, where they're just like looking in the past and like, you know, everything is just kind of fascinating, but nobody has context around like what it was at the time.
No, 100%. People are getting bowl cuts and it's like cool.
Right? Yeah. I always thought it was funny too that like a lot of younger people that I worked with would like go to like Friends trivia night and stuff, but like they weren't old enough to be watching Friends when it was on. And I'm like, it's weird now that like my youth is, I don't know if it's like irony or like kitsch or like what the word is, but like it's like a thing now. Like it's retro, right? Like,
yeah.
When I was growing up, I had Freedom Rock, the cassette tapes. And like that was kind of a funny throwback. And now like my, you know, even 20s now are like a throwback for people.
Oh, 100%. I know.
Oh God, we're just
so
rotting
depressing.
away. Just rotting away before your eyes. But how's everything with you?
Pretty good, you know. Yeah, feeling old. No, I'm good. Honestly, I was just telling you before we started recording that I'm officially on summer vacation from work, so that's pretty sick. But I don't know about you. Like, my big thing is I'm really bad at, once I have like a break starting, it takes me a long time to feel it, you know?
Oh, I'm terrible with it. Like,
okay.
And I have a very hard time relaxing. Like I can't, and I think a lot of it has to do with like the ADHD in me. Like I can't sit down if like Leslie is out with the kids or something and I'm by myself, and for all intents and purposes, it would be a great time to just like veg out and watch TV or something. Like I'll sit there for like 10 minutes and start watching something I like. And it's like, oh, the deck needs to be painted. So I'm just going to go like do that. Like, you know, in some respects, I think Leslie kind of loves it. Like, you know, that I can't sit and do nothing, but in other respects, it's like, oh, like, you know, at no point, I think in my 45 years on earth, have I ever actually relaxed.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And that's like a scary thing to realize, because other people, you see them doing things like that are relaxing, quote unquote. Yeah. And then part of me is like, that sounds awful. But it's like, you know, like, oh, I just sat and I took a nap. I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
All right.
I haven't napped in forever.
No.
You know, which sounds great. What a fun show this is that we've got.
I know.
Here.
People are just probably driving along like, oh, I just feel so much better about this.
And then just like slowly swerving into the other lane.
100%.
We talk to 100%. Them about how awful things are.
I've also, one more quick side note. I've also been, and I knew I wanted to share this with you because I knew you'd appreciate it. So I was talking to some of our mutual friends earlier today in our group chat, Jason, Sophie, Spencer, Luke. the kids, you know.
I like most of them. I will not name names as to who is not on that list, but like the
Some of
majority.
them. We were talking about Taco Bell in
Ugh.
classic food fashion, and I was just like, what's everyone's go-to order, you know? So we were
Oh.
all sharing and everything. And I know you and I have talked about this at length.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and they were telling me, and I had no idea, that you can sub potatoes for like meat inside
Oh.
of different things.
I
Is this not shocking to you? Because I had no idea.
I I will two things. I was not aware of that. I don't think I care. I'm just,
Wow. Wow.
but I can
Deep.
see that being like relevant for, like vegetarians and stuff. I can't picture a world where I would ever want any item without a meat and just rather replace it with.
I understand what you're saying, but my
Yeah.
thing is because I feel the same way. But what I took from it
Hmm.
was not to become a vegetarian, but to add potatoes to my current order.
Ah.
Because I
Oh,
thought,
so,
oh, I can get a crunch wrap and add potatoes to it.
so you thought it through and I just made an asshole comment is what
No,
is
not at
what we're
all an
saying.
asshole
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the intention of the conversation was, oh, Evan, you should try it with potatoes instead of ground beef.
Yeah.
And at first I was like,
Oh, you can do it in addition to. Ah, okay. Now I see the value of this.
that's what I'm
Now this is
saying.
making sense. Interesting. I do
Yeah,
like, and we've probably talked about this. I love the app. Like the app has changed my entire like ordering process.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
only thing, the only gripe I have with it, and I don't know if you run into this, but if you order something on the app and you do your thing at home and then you go over there and for whatever reason they don't have it, at least as of like last summer, they don't have a way to refund your money. Like you have to like email and or call or whatever Taco Bell and like get this rectified.
No.
I found this out because you remember there was like it may have been like a year ago at this point. They had the wings, right? Taco Bell came out with like chicken wings
They sure
and
did.
like everyone was losing their shit. And I ordered them from my local one and went over there and like, oh yeah, no, those are gone. We don't have those anymore. And they were just like, you have to call. And I'm like, okay.
They
Which
couldn't
maybe now
even
that I
like
like
they
replace
couldn't
it.
sub it for something else?
Now that I'm saying it out loud, they might have just been super lazy and could have done something and just said, no, you gotta call. Like go do that thing.
Sure, sure. That's
Yeah.
shocking because yeah, the idea of like I'd have to call I
I
don't want
didn't
to
do it.
call and talk to someone.
No, I just chalked it up as like this is the price I pay for Taco Bell, and now I'm
I mean,
out
and the
like
thing is Taco Bell
$7.
is so cheap, it's probably like you were out a
That's
couple bucks.
that's the thing. Like, and I know this sounds awful, but like the thought of putting that much effort to get like $7 back, it didn't appeal to me. And I'm sorry,
No,
America,
no, no,
but
no. I feel the same way. I can't go through the logistics of it. The like, hi, can I get your name? And how are you doing today? I don't, I just,
no,
no, I just want the money back. I don't really, it's good. I'm fine. I don't want to talk about my day. I just want the money back.
I agree. I don't know where we go from here, but
Hawaii.
the movie we're talking about this week, Two Tickets to Paradise, starring one Ashley Williams and Ryan
Mm,
Pevy, whose last name
mm.
I'm probably saying wrong. Ashley Williams, you're gonna recognize, maybe not you, like when I'm saying I'm talking to the royal you
Yes.
at this point from a bunch of Hallmark movies. There was Christmas in Evergreen. She's been in like that whole series. She did have like a small part in Love Classified, which we have done on this show. I don't. Were you on that
Yeah, I
episode?
was gonna say I did that one.
That's right. Yeah. So
Who?
apparently
What?
she was in there, but it does
Okay.
say she was Nora Noble, but uncredited. So I assume that means she just had a small part. But she's been in a bunch of these, and for all intents and purposes, I'm assuming is going to be in a bunch more.
Sure.
So you'll definitely recognize her if you're familiar. But this one, oh, sorry, I should also say Dustin Reckert is the director. He also did Next Stop Christmas, which Mark Newell was on that episode, and it was Christopher Lloyd and like a time travel thing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which was actually like pretty good. So high hopes here. But the movie itself focuses on these two couples, Hannah and Josh, played by Ashley and Ryan. And it starts off with them pretty much getting left at the altar separately. So they are both at the Justice of the Peace or whatever downtown, kind of doing their thing. And we get shots of them separately, pretty much being left. Josh, we see like a conversation, which at a certain point, I thought Josh may have been dating a college student
Right.
because like when he's breaking up with his lover, Cece, she's in like a Yukon sweater or something, and he's in like a suit. And I'm like, is he a teacher that's like dating a student? And now like something weird is happening here.
Spicy.
Uh, and Hannah is like pretty much in a chapel with Marcus, and Marcus pulls Hannah's sister aside, whose name I don't remember. Oh, Cece is the sister. Sorry.
Sister Becca.
Becca is the one that's going to marry Josh. So Marcus pulls Cece aside and kind of breaks the news to Cece, and then has her deliver the news to Hannah, which I've got a lot of thoughts about Cece and Sarah,
Okay.
Hannah's sister and mother.
Right.
But I know we had kind of messaged back and forth about like picking a movie for this. And my thought was like, this seemed like a fun one, because it's the summer, people go on vacation, things like that.
Right.
I hope I'm not outing you here, but your response was, let's do that one. They look very punchable on the cover, which
100%.
absolutely, like if you do look at the cover, like it is very, they just their faces are just like, yeah.
Yeah.
um so I don't know, initial thoughts on this. I mean, we'll kind of go through the whole plot like we normally do, but like what was your kind of expectation going in, or did you have one, or I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, it's 100% what you said. Like, I was just like, we talked about a couple movies, and I very much am one of those people that will judge a book by its cover. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh, this looks terrible because they both look annoying as hell. Um, so I went in kind of being like, this is going to be so goofy. I'm not going to lie, like, I really liked this movie.
I was hoping you would say that because at a certain point last night, I legitimately laughed out loud at a few
Me
parts.
too.
And like I, turned to Leslie and I'm like, I think I really like this movie. And she's like, yeah, like
Yes.
this is great. Like and I gotta say, like, our joking back and forth about the cover, but like Ashley Williams as Hannah, like I'm all in. Like
National Treasure.
I think she was amazing in this. Like she's
Yeah.
super funny. Like, you know, Josh or Ryan Peavy is good, like, but he kind of just plays the male part. Ashley like carries this thing. She's super funny. Like there's legitimate parts where I laughed out loud. So yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
She's definitely got, yeah, I 100% agree. Like at first I was a little bit like, "Ugh," cuz like you explained, the setup of the movie is like them being left at the altar, quote unquote.
Mhm.
One thing I loved about Becca too is that, like you said, she had like a college shirt on, and I love that, in like little shorts, and I love that like she was making it so clear, like, I'm gonna wear like the
Yeah.
most casual outfit that I can to deny you marriage. That
But
way,
her
there's like no
hair
hope.
was very made up. Like
It really
Leslie
was.
had this theory that she was like halfway through the hair and makeup process and was just like, you know what? No, I can't do this.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I don't know. I thought he was going to be kind of just like, every guy we ever see in these movies that's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I just want like a good thing in life. And I love to make things with wood.
Yeah.
But he actually ended up being, honestly, pretty charismatic in his own
He
way.
had some
Like,
like real depth to like his character, which
yeah, like Marcus was like that
oh
guy that I was thinking he was going to be. Like
yeah.
he was kind of the guy I think of for these types of movies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then Josh was like a lot more like witty than I was expecting, and I feel like his chemistry with her was
Mhm.
great. Like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
could see them in a like if I knew them in real life, I'd go, "Oh, they're definitely a couple." Like
I
the
would love to find.
riffing, you
I
know.
always see these articles about like so and so is dating so and so from these movies, and like
Yeah,
if those two ended up really being together, and I'm trying to like Google it as we're talking, like I would
sure.
not be the least bit surprised
Oh
because
yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you. I think she's got what we call gumption. She's like
mm,
she's got that old Hollywood kind of, like, she's ready to tussle with like witty words, and And knowing that she's in other movies, I'm honestly like intrigued to go watch those.
Do we have to do the whole
The oeuvre,
Ashley Williams verse? The Willia?
the Williams
I
verse.
so Leslie and I have been, or it's more I'm forcing this on her, on a kick. That sounds terrible to say. This summer to watch every movie that J-Lo has been in.
Oh my
Um,
god, that's amazing.
and we missed last weekend. We didn't get to one, but like I almost feel like at a certain point, like you and I need to just get through every single Hallmark movie that Ashley Williams has ever
I'm
done.
100% in.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. This is going to derail me, but have you guys
Oh my
watched
God, please.
have you watched Enough yet?
Have I have seen that one in the past, I believe. Um, if not, it's definitely on the list. I gotta look. So I use like Letterbox just to keep track of what I have and haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if we had or hadn't, but if not, for all intents, just say no. Like I can't
Okay.
remember it, so probably not.
That's a must. The J Lo. I'm a J Lo connoisseur of
Mm,
movies. Monster in Law, Enough.
that we've seen.
Oh, so
I'm trying
good.
to, I'll just do it on my phone and I can tell you like exactly what we've seen. But we watched Anaconda. I had never seen, and
Classic.
we watched that a couple weeks ago. That movie is unreal. How
Yeah,
awful it is. Like,
it really
and
is.
it's mostly because of John Voight.
Yeah.
Like
Oh right, I forgot.
insane. I don't. Why does he have like that accent? Like,
I don't know.
I didn't understand like a lot of the decisions that were going on in that movie. Um, but and it was funny because Leslie pinpointed the year that movie came out based on J Lo's nose alone.
I love
Like
that.
called it, yeah. So whatever. We watched Hustlers, which is a great movie. Like that's a
Great.
legitimate good movie. Marry Me, we watched,
Haven't
which
seen
is
it.
yeah, it's it's what you'd expect.
Okay.
Uh, oh, what kicked this off was we watched The Mother, that new Netflix movie.
Mm,
Which have you watched that?
I have not.
It's something. I mean, it's good. It's fun for what it is, but
Yeah.
oh, what did we watch a couple weeks ago too? We watched Second Act,
Oh, I
which
love that.
it's so insane. Like
Yes.
she works at like a grocery store and then becomes like an executive.
With
Yeah,
Leah
we
Remini. How could you
yes.
not like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh my god. So what's funny is now we're completely like we're
Please.
just
Let's
it's
go.
gonna be I posted when asking for questions for this episode and just noticed that it had been like almost 8 years to the day, like as of like 3 years ago, that you and I had like we had known each other through the other podcast, but we had met in person for the first time out in Disneyland. And that is also the anniversary of when Leslie saw Leah Remini in person at Disneyland. And it's like one of the greatest days of her life.
I don't know if I ever heard that story.
I'm trying to remember. It must have happened after we hung out then.
Okay.
But yeah, like we were sitting waiting for the parade to start, like by the entrance, and all of a sudden and it was around the time that she had her reality show. She
Yep.
walks by with I think her mother and like I don't think her husband, but maybe somebody else. And like Leslie literally grabs the back of my neck and like there's not a lot here, but like pulled skin, like
Yeah.
almost like you would pick up like a kitten or
You kidding.
something, like just like full on. Yeah. Never seen her that happy. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a big one.
That's a huge. Also, to add an extra layer to this, it's
Mhm.
just this is actually kind of wild. So even though I live in California, like I haven't been to Disneyland in years
Mm.
because it's pricey, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm literally going this weekend
Oh.
because it's like a gift from my parents for birthday, you know. So it's
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
we're gonna go Saturday, and it's all full circle. Like this is just the time all
That's
this is happening,
wonderful.
you know.
That's wonderful. Yeah. We went around November for Thanksgiving before heading down to Leslie's family in Virginia, and
Yeah.
it was fun. I really like Disneyland, maybe almost better than Disney World right now, just with like the way that they have fast pass and stuff, and it's not really easy to navigate. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was crazy that week, and we would never go that time again, but like
Sure.
it is just like it's a lot more relaxing than having to plan like every minute down in Disney World.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen Star Wars Land then yet.
I did because I
Ah,
saw
okay.
it like the last time I went, it was like right when it was opening.
Mm.
So it was before the pandemic.
Oh, okay. So you
So
probably have you seen Rise, like the second ride, Rise of the Resistance that opened? Yeah, that's a lot
I
of
didn't
fun.
do any rides either when I was there.
Okay.
It was like just walking through it basically.
Yeah, I
But
get
yeah,
that. Fun.
we're not even we're just doing California Adventure this weekend too.
Oh, nice. I love that. Like, I love California
Too.
Adventure.
I was like, and you
Sorry.
know, with my partner, like he likes Disneyland, you know, for the most part, but
Yeah.
like I was like, it's a different experience. It's
Yeah.
like it's a little more adult in certain ways, just because
Yeah.
there's like, oh, there's alcohol everywhere. That helps
They
a
have
lot.
really good food there too.
They
Like,
do, yeah.
yeah. Mm,
So pretty stoked. Anyway,
that's nice.
yeah.
Where the hell were we? So yeah, so they both get dumped like in their respective ways and like pretty much go outside for a breather in like this courtyard, and that's where they bump into each other, and it's meet cute or whatever you want to call it. They start talking about how they just got dumped, and then like almost immediately jump into a conversation about their honeymoons, and Hannah's kind of complaining that like we had this honeymoon plan, like we were supposed to do it, and Josh convinces her that like, well, you should go by yourself, you should relax, and like this is a good way to unwind. So he kind of convinces her, but she also says, well, if I'm going to do that, then you need to take a trip too. And like Josh and Becca didn't have a honeymoon planned because like they were just going to do it at the courthouse and it was be very quick. But she's like, you need to take some time off and go do your thing too. So obviously the next thing that happens, and this is where it gets a little creepy, right? Like
Mm.
they bump into each other outside, then they bump into each other at the airport, and finds out that like Josh went there and pretty much bought the first ticket on the first flight, which they make a little crack making fun of Jersey because he says like, well, Jersey was the first flight, but the second was Hawaii. And that's what, yeah, which, bullshit. It's beautiful.
It's a deep cut. Yeah.
Uh, so they end up on the same flight. They get to the airport in Hawaii, and he doesn't have a hotel or anything. Hannah goes about her way, gets in her cab, and goes to where she's going. Josh sees a sign for this hotel, and is like, "Sure, let's go with that one." Obviously, ends up that's where Hannah is staying, and they kind of bump into each other. But I don't know. I'm interested in your thoughts because at no point is Hannah like, hey, are you stalking me? And like this is starting to get terrifying. Um, she just kind of rolls with it. Me personally, I would be like, what are you doing here? Like, what's
Yeah.
about to happen? But
I know.
I don't know.
Well, I think she says one at the airport, their first encounter
Mhm.
after that initial one. Like she does say, like, "Are you following me?" And he was like, "Nope." And then that's
Yeah,
when he says the first option was Jersey. This was the second option,
no, that's true. Yeah,
which I also find harder to believe. But anyway, because I feel
yeah,
like there's a million places that would be more easily accessible than Hawaii. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't. I mean, I know what you mean for sure. And it's like, I guess it's one of two things. Like he's an attractive person.
Mhm.
So I think that sort of gives him a little favor. And I also think that she, I don't know, I think this just kind of speaks to their chemistry. She just felt like this just feels right. Deep down, she just knew it was okay.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And at the heart of it, it's a Hallmark movie, right?
I mean,
Like they're
yeah,
not
I was
gonna
like literally going to go the other direction.
have her, being concerned that someone's getting murdered. Can I? Sorry, I hate to do this. I want to pause for a second. I'm not. No, I hope that worked. Anywho, so yeah, so they end up at the same hotel. The curveball there is that this hotel is pretty much just made for couples. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing but like they check in, they kind of look around, and they're standing next to each other, and like literally, it's just like a Roman orgy going on with like couples making out by the pool and like all kinds of things going. So it's uncomfortable because the two of them are there. They're separate. They're single, and apparently singles are not allowed. Like, I assume this was some sort of like swingers like retreat that they stumbled upon or something, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
It's a little interesting too. I guess I mean, that probably does exist, right? Like places that
oh
are like,
yeah,
this is couples only. Like you can't just be here.
I've got to imagine. Like, I'm sure. Like, I don't know what Club Med is, but like that's the first thing that kind of pops in my head. That like or sandals, like. But I've got to imagine like those resorts too are for like girls trips and guys trips and whatever. Like, I don't know if I can think of like a strict couples only,
Mm.
except for maybe the beautiful Mount Airy Lodge in the Poconos.
Okay. Classic.
That might be, but yeah, it is weird that Hannah doesn't think about that, right? Because she's the one that kind of booked this and planned this, and it never kind of crosses her mind that like, oh yeah, this hotel is like specifically for couples. But
Yeah, exactly. She is such a planner. You'd think she would know that.
oh, we didn't
I
even
don't
talk
know.
about that. So like her whole kind of backstory, or the kind of thread we get is she uses this app, which I forget the name, but I'm sure I have it somewhere in my notes.
It's
Where
like
you kind of just keep track of all
org,
your tasks. Yeah,
right?
something like
Like org or something. I don't know. Sorry.
yeah. Um yeah, let's just go with that. But like pretty much it's literally just like a checklist. Like it's a Google Doc. Like
Yeah.
it easily could be replaced. So the whole setup is that like she's very like everything needs to be planned. She needs to have a checklist, and she goes to this resort and is like, I'm still going to do all my checklists, right? Like I'm going to go horseback riding, I'm going to do my thing and all that fun. We meet uh Kalani at the
Hmm.
front desk, who is the front desk attendant. Kalani immediately takes an interest in Hannah, and
Yep.
at a certain point I'm not sure if Kalani has any other job other than to just kind of make sure that Hannah's doing okay, right? Like
She's literally in charge of like every event too. Like every time there was like
every
some like the three-legged race we get to and
yeah.
like the lei making, it's like she's running it or her aunt.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like she knows everything, right? Which
Right.
I guess, she could be the activities director or something, but like it seems like she's specifically focusing on Hannah and
Hmm.
making sure that Hannah's doing okay, because they check in and Hannah explains the situation. And then Kalani kind of runs to her room and kind of preps her because like everything was made up with like flowers and, pretty much for like a honeymoon. And, from there on, she's very involved in just making sure that she's doing okay.
Right.
So her and Hannah and Josh kind of couple up, and it's very sort of platonic, although there's great chemistry there. So you know where things are going.
Hmm.
And at a certain point, he's kind of like, well, you're going to do these things. Why don't I do them with you? And like, as friends, and, we'll kind of keep things platonic and just, I'll help you get through your checklist. And that's kind of the meat of the movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
you had mentioned, I think the first thing they do is like a three-legged race where we also meet Cal and Nick, who become like very good friends with Hannah and Josh. Was this the first movie we have watched where there's been a gay couple in, which I had no idea that there was in this
Yeah.
one, and I do kind of appreciate it that it wasn't made like a thing, right? Like it was just
Right.
kind of, they were there and they were part of the couples that they were meeting, and that's just kind of the way that they folded them into the story.
Yeah, there wasn't like some they could have easily done some joke of like when they were like, "Oh, where's your husband?" or
Yeah,
whatever, and she was just like, "Oh," and then if she was like, "Oh, are you guys brothers or something or friends?"
yeah,
They could have
exactly.
done that, but yeah, no, I thought the same. This is a Hallmark movie, right?
Yep, yeah,
Isn't that kind of aren't they trying to like
they are.
diversify
Yeah,
more? Okay.
I want to say like around like 2020 or so, or maybe even early than I just
Mhm.
hadn't noticed, but like yeah, there's definitely been more and more inclusion. And I think the point I like about this is that it wasn't made like a gimmick or like a thing. It was just kind of there and it made
Oh
sense.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's and now I'm remembering. I think that's why Candace Cameron Bure was like, "I'm
Yeah.
no longer doing Hallmark films because of scenes like that."
Traditional family values, like the bullshit label they put on it.
100%. No, I liked that too. I thought that was nice, and like they're in it pretty often,
Mhm.
and not jumping ahead too much, we'll get to it
Oh,
obviously, but like just
please.
the when when Marcus gets in the mix toward the end, even they're like there to because you can tell Hannah's. So I guess I should say really quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
Marcus does show up
Yeah,
to Hawaii like to surprise because he's like realizing I made a mistake. I was nervous. They talk about it. He says like I just felt like our life was too perfect. I could picture everything we were going to do. And it just kind of freaked me out, which Hannah also kind of realizes was how she felt deep down as well.
Yep.
And going on this trip, having the spontaneity of like doing all these different events, hanging out with Josh, someone she doesn't know, hanging out with all these people, really like is realizing that she's more adventurous than she thought she was. And so yeah, Marcus shows up and, you know, they're trying to like work through it and talk. And at one point they're doing a lay class where they make lays, and when they run into the gay couple, what was it? Nick and Cal, or Nick and
Cal
Kim?
and Nick. Yep.
Cal and Nick. They are kind of confused, obviously, because they thought that Josh was like her significant other.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of
then,
I didn't mean to cut you up, but that's kind of like the running joke through the whole thing is like, other than Kalani, everybody at the resort, which for the most part, Cal and Nick are the two that they interact with most, are under the impression that they're a couple because they kind of assumed when they first met them, and Hannah and Josh never really corrected him. So it's like, it's not like a joke running through it, but it is kind of like the theme that we get for most of it.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. And people believe it because they are so close knit. And there's a moment where Marcus is like, gets up and leaves and asks to, you know, have Hannah meet him at the bar later. And they make a comment to her like, you know, I'm really confused. We're just really confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like them saying like, we don't even really see a connection between you two.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I
you
forget.
know,
I forget what the verb is, but she says like, "I don't even know what I'm doing anymore," or something. And they're like, "Honestly, we don't either." You know, something along those lines. Like, yeah,
it's an acknowledge, like they're acknowledging like you feel insecure about it, so do we. You know, like we don't see it either, even though we saw it with you and Josh. So I thought that was kind of a nice. Honestly, too, like there's moments in the movie that I was kind of surprised by in the way that like they'll have conversations that aren't just like surface level. Like it'll be like there's a scene when so going back to that three-legged race,
yeah,
the Cal and Nick win the race and they get like a free night at this like, you know,
yeah,
forest or jungle
bungalow
cabin.
type thing. Yeah,
Yeah. And eventually they give the prize to Hannah and Josh to use. And so they have like a really nice dinner there, and they're having a conversation about Becca and Marcus. And
why
they're
they broke
basically
up? Yeah,
saying, yeah, like what did you like about them and what did you not like about them? And I actually thought it was really like interesting and good writing to be like, my favorite thing about them was, you know, that you know, Josh says like my favorite thing about Becca was that she would text me good morning and good night.
yeah,
And it's like very sweet. And it's like that kind of thing about relationships. Like there's those things that happen that you're like, I really love that about them. But then as time goes on, you sort
yeah,
of learn that actually I don't like that very thing anymore, because he says, but then I learned to, my least favorite thing was that she would get mad at me if I didn't respond because she would think
yeah,
I was fooling around with someone else. And she, you know, then Hannah, because it does a similar thing with Marcus. And I thought that was actually like kind of
yeah,
elevated for this kind of movie. Like
yeah.
the writing was, it was like relatable without being cheesy. You know what I mean?
Leslie and I had a lot of questions though as to why she did not pry further on that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why did she think you were cheating if you didn't reply like immediately? Like, what's happened in the past where like you are being, you know, accused of these sort of things? I thought that was really funny. But
She
yeah,
just found him in bed with like three
yeah.
people, you know.
But like that happened once, and
It
now
was
every
just
time I
one
don't
time and it was
reply,
a
yeah,
mistake, you know. She didn't, it was, she just misunderstood.
yeah. And you're 100% right, because I agree. There's also like another scene where what is it? Josh is kind of telling this story about how Becca's mom was like very involved and like was in her head a lot, and like it was, you never really hear, especially like in a Hallmark movie, like, oh, her mom was like fucking with her head, right? Or like, you know, getting in there, like playing mind games. Like it's all very like surface level, like, oh, she was controlling, and like that's it. Then you move on. Not
Yep.
like, oh, her mom was a fucking dick. And you know,
Right.
that's where we had problems. Oh, Orgit. Orgit was the name of the thing.
Oh, org it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I
Gotcha.
guess kind of the funny reveal during this bungalow scene is they're talking about their jobs and stuff, and I forget what she does, but you know, he explains, well, like, oh, I'm not working right now because I created this app, and obviously it turns out it's the app that like she does her entire life in, which, you know, is fun.
And, you know, and like you said, it's like just a list you can make with a checkbox.
Yeah, right.
But
Um So the whole kind of thing with Josh and Hannah is Josh is like helping her pretty much break away from these lists, right? Like at a certain point, they're in the car and she's like, "Am I boring because I have all these lists?" And I think he breaks it to her kindly, but it's a little bit like, yeah, like this is a bit much. Um, and the thing I loved was they I forget how they ended up getting to this spot, but like they're supposed to go like horseback riding or something, and then he's like, but I know this little hidden spot where like nobody goes, or we'll go to a beach or something. And he takes her here and they show it and it's beautiful, but I swear to God, it was the Jurassic Park like tour that people go on for Hawaii. Cause like Leslie and I had just seen it on like a TikTok, and I was saying like, oh my God, I would love to go here. And like literally when he pulled in, I expected to see like a sign with like a talking raptor or something, like this is this
Right.
little off the beaten path like place I know. And like I thought it was so funny that it's just like this is obviously like a huge like tourist destination where you take
Oh
her, but
yeah, for
you know,
sure. Well, I mean, and props to Hallmark though too. Like speaking of that, like a lot of the location shooting was like clearly actually Hawaii, and like
yeah,
I even like with him, his character, like he looked like he was actually surfing. Like
yeah,
it wasn't like, oh yeah, there's like scenes of him walking up with a surfboard, being like, yeah, I was out there for hours. Like
yeah,
it was it felt more natural than, again, I'm kind of, we've talked about it before, like everyone
yeah,
wears like Chelsea boots and has a
mm-hmm,
scarf on, and there's a lot of coffee drinking. I mean, that's in this too, of course.
yeah,
um but like everyone just seems so perfectly manicured, and like they'll say they did this thing and I'm like, no you didn't, like there's no way
yeah,
that you were at the gym, like there's no way.
yeah.
Or like, oh, I just ate a whole pizza. It's like, no you didn't.
No, you didn't.
But this felt like it almost, they were like tiptoeing away from Hallmark like
Everything's
tropes.
filmed in Canada. Yep,
Yeah, there was little things they would do. Like the writing was a little bit different, the on
yep.
location shooting, the chemistry between the people. It just all felt like, I feel like if they didn't have that very very last scene
Mm-hmm.
of the movie,
Yep,
that
yeah,
it would feel almost like it could have been in a theater.
yep, yeah. I agree. Like it was a little forgetting Sarah Marshall, right? Like it felt like a Hallmark version of that. And I'm like skimming through, I'm trying to actually find some of the stuff that I like legitimately laughed at, but there were like actual funny parts in this, and like not just kind of like a like there were parts where like I did 100% laugh out loud. And for the most part it felt like it was intentional too, like not just me like goofing, right? Like
Oh no. I mean, the one I can think of off the top of my head that you were just talking about, but when they're going to go do the horseback riding thing, and they're
mhm,
driving on that road, and she sees the sign for the turtle swimming thing. And she's like, "Oh, that's the thing that
yeah,
Nick and Cal did." And she's like, "Let's go do that instead." And she like rips up her cards.
yes, yeah,
And
I did,
and then she
that's
was
one.
like, he's like, "Okay, so you're going to delete the app now?" And she goes, "Let's not get crazy."
Yeah, do you have any tape in here? Like, and
Yeah,
I
that was
laughed,
funny. Yeah, that
I
was
did.
like a
Yeah,
legitimate LOL for sure.
yeah. We're kind of jumping around, which is perfectly fine, but I did want to talk about Cece and the mom, whose name I
Yes.
forget, Sarah.
Tell me everything.
Very toxic. Like I don't
Mm.
appreciate what they're bringing. Like right off the bat in the beginning when Marcus dumps Hannah through Cece, like Hannah's in the bathroom bawling her eyes out, and her mom is almost like kind of knocking on the door like, come on, get over it, let's get out here and let's go fix whatever's wrong with you so we can get Marcus back, right? Like,
Yep.
and that is kind of a theme for like most of the calls she has with them during the stay in Hawaii too. Like at no point do they kind of offer what you I feel like you should in this scenario is like, yeah, fuck him, he's an asshole for ditching you like this. Like it feels very much like, don't worry, we're gonna figure out what we need to fix with you and we're gonna
I
get him
know.
back and things are gonna be great. Like the two of them, it's funny because I was taking notes and at one point I forget what the exact scene is, but I had written down that like the mom and sister seem very toxic, and like at the exact same time, Leslie's like, this sister seems like a very toxic person for like what she's doing.
You're on the same
Um,
page.
yep,
Well, even that first scene, like you said, when Hannah's in the bathroom, the mom makes a comment. She's like, I just don't want her to ruin my dress, and like, oh, she probably
yeah,
already did ruin
right,
my dress, and it's like, All right,
Your
geez.
daughter just got left at the altar. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on with you?
I know, wild, wild. Yeah, the mom, and then at the very end, she's like, "Honey, like, I just want you to be happy." And I was like, "Where was this energy? Like the
Yeah.
whole movie? All of a sudden, she has to go all the way to Hawaii for you to like have a little bit of
Yeah.
sympathy."
Yeah. And even that kind of just felt like the mom's accepted that she has a pathetic daughter that's going to die alone. So it's just
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I
I know,
guess
acts like
this
her
was,
daughter is this like plague. It's like your daughter has
yeah.
like so much charisma, and then you two are over here like, oh,
Yeah. We haven't talked about Alice, but I don't know if there's much to say there. Alice is, I
Hmm.
guess, Josh's aunt or
It's like
something.
family friend.
Yeah. So she owns a bar there, and I may have missed like what exactly happened, but I think Josh's parents are separated, right?
Yeah,
Or yeah. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like Alice pretty much raised Josh or like was very involved in his life. So they're very close. So she does kind of play the mother figure in this. Hannah becomes very close with her. At one point when we're kind of getting to the end and Josh and Hannah are getting very close, and then all of a sudden Marcus shows up. We get a scene where apparently he had called 3 times, but Hannah didn't answer and didn't bother returning the call. So Marcus shows up at the resort, and this is like the last 20 minutes. We know where things are kind of going here, and like Hannah's like, "Oh, okay," and Josh is bummed because he's starting to have feelings for Hannah, and that's where we get the scene with Carl and Cal and Nick doing the lay creating that scene. So Marcus makes like the shittiest lay you've ever seen.
right.
And I forgot, I think it was Kalani was teaching the course and she's like, "Oh, yeah, that was a good effort." And Marcus, his response was just like, "I don't want to do this anymore." And like he just had like this like
Yeah,
dopey look on his face and he looked like embarrassed and kind of just like walked off and just like, "I gotta go back to the room. Like, I
he's
don't
a
want to
big
do
old
this."
baby.
Yeah, like he was just a goof all around. Like
Yeah,
I feel like they very much played up that like he was just like a doofy idiot, right?
yeah, exactly. I know.
Like
Poor guy, and he didn't have an upper lip.
yeah, it was like
It's
what
tough.
there was the scene where like Josh takes Hannah to this like little remote stand to get like a coconut drink because Hannah had made a comment that like she wanted to try like a real coconut drink, not like
Right.
a pre-made thing. But then back at the resort, Marcus brings her one. He's like, "You said you want a coconut drink. I want to make sure you have it. You better drink it. It was $45." Like, and it's like, oh yeah, Marcus is an asshole. Josh is great. So that's kind of where things start to wrap up. Hannah and Josh kind of go their separate ways because Josh assumes she's getting back together with Marcus. There's a scene where like Alice offers Josh a chance to stay and like take over the bar there for a while because she's going on vacation with her boyfriend. Um, Everybody goes back to wherever the hell they're from, Connecticut, I guess, just based on the Yukon sweater. And yeah, like Josh goes and sees Becca. They don't really break it off. They just kind of agree that like, we made the right decision to not do this. Hannah breaks it off with Marcus and, kind of just decides she's going to be on her own for a while. But then there's this scene where they're like walking in like the same area or something, and the moon's out and it's beautiful. And it's kind of a throwback to that bungalow scene where they had started walking back to their rooms, but texted each other about looking at how beautiful the moon is. They start doing, or Hannah is sending Josh a text about it. And then he bumps into her and he's like, "Oh, I was about to send you a text about the moon, blah, blah, blah."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cut to however many months later, they're in Hawaii getting married, and Cal and Nick are there, and everything's wonderful, and everyone's doing their thing at that point.
Yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely. I know that was
uh,
also the weird. The only thing that was weird about that scene too to me was where they bump into each other. Is like that's where they also met in the very beginning because they
yeah.
like
Why
point
were
out the
they there?
bench. I was
Yep.
like, you couldn't
You
get
just
coffee somewhere else.
you just hang around at like the courthouse slash like chapel, and
Yeah,
they're there. Um, were you as shocked as I was that they actually got the Eddie Money Two Tickets to Paradise song in the
I
movie?
was. That's like 100%. I thought, wow, they're like really good. I thought for sure when that at the beginning of the movie where they play that, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is actually going to be in Hawaii. Like they're going to like try to make it look
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
because they had spent probably the whole budget on that one song. But
Yeah.
no.
Although Eddie Money did die a few years ago, so his stuff might just be
Mm,
a lot more open now. I am
royalty free.
always like surprised when like legitimate songs are in there.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and again, that kind of made this movie feel like a movie
Yep, for sure. Yep.
too. Yeah, I don't know. I very much enjoyed it. I was like, I'm actually like enjoying this whole movie, and I want to see where this
Yeah.
goes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Anything else we missed? I think we kind of hit all the points that I had, or if we didn't, I'm not thinking of any. But
Yeah, no, I think we hit it all. Like,
wonderful.
everyone's it was very good, and I had a good time with it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's obvious we would both recommend this and give it a big thumbs up. You're happily ever after. Who do you pick from this cast? I mean, you could go with Josh, but I assume he's entangled with Hannah. So
Oh
where do you
man,
go?
I'll just break that up.
Yeah, that's totally fine too.
I mean, he
Yeah.
is a good-looking guy, and like I said, I was like, oh, he's probably gonna be really boring,
Yeah.
but he was like pretty funny in his own way too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. He had
he
his
wasn't
moments for
just like
sure.
a stick in the mud, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought he was like, I thought he was pretty cool.
Yeah. I would go with Hannah. I thought she was delightful. If I
Absolutely,
had to pick the non kind of main, Kalani, I feel like she's a great planner. I
great
feel like
time.
very sweet, and I feel like we could be very happy together. And she knows everybody on this island, so
It's true,
I think I would be fine there.
100%.
Yeah. So that is 2 tickets to paradise, 2 big thumbs up. As I say every week, we are on Instagram and Twitter. I post up if you want to send any questions, usually on Instagram. I got to remember to start doing it other places, but things happen. We got a couple this week. First one, favorite summer vacation spot.
Hmm.
Hmm. When's the last time you've gone on like a real summer vacation? Like, well, I guess Disneyland, you're like 20 minutes away. That doesn't really count, right?
Yeah, I was trying to think of like, honestly, I think I've told you this before, probably not on on like on a show, but just as friends. Like, growing up, like we didn't really do vacations
Mm.
because like we just my dad's work and everything was kind of complicated. So, um, I don't know. Like, I guess the closest I've come to like a summer vacation was like a couple of years ago. But before the pandemic, we went to Palm Springs, which again
Oh,
isn't. It's like a 3 hour drive from here, so
but
it's
it's
not.
very nice out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it felt like because it's very hot and like most people
Yeah.
that are there to like go to swimming and stuff like that, eat out and stuff like that. So that's probably like the most. But I would think if I could go anywhere,
Oh, yeah,
um,
let's do that.
I don't know, in a weird way, I would probably want to do like Italy or something, which I know is not
Oh,
like a summer spot, but it just feels like it'd be so nice and
it could
relaxing.
be. It could be if you're there in the summer. Why not?
Sure,
Yeah.
pasta galore.
Yeah. Doesn't Lisa Vanderpump have like a star in Palm Springs or
She sure
something? I thought
does.
that. Yeah.
She sure does.
Did you go see that or?
I have not. I don't know exactly where it is. I could figure it out,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
Sure, it's
should
on
go
the
see it.
internet.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, Disney World was our big one. It was like an every other year thing, and like we always looked forward to it. Hershey Park, I also loved. Like we would
Hmm.
do that like once a year. You know, take the trip. If we go anywhere, I don't know. I don't know. Italy does sound nice. I'm very like my anxiety around people that I don't understand what they're saying. Like if I don't speak the
Hmm.
language, I always feel like they hate my guts. It's not a
Sure.
like by no means it's like a you should be speaking English type thing. It's more just like I hate looking like an idiot, like,
Yeah.
or just like stupid in front of people. So that always makes me nervous. So,
Hmm.
Hawaii, I would love to go to Hawaii, but I feel like that's a big one.
Yeah.
Um, a couple more. What is your favorite tropical drink? Hmm.
Oh, I mean, honestly, this is cliche, but I love a pina colada.
Oh, me too, for sure.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
I'm a huge pina colada fan. I have gotten very into like tiki drinks and stuff, especially since like the pandemic, because
Yeah.
we were just home and like I love a Mai Tai. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. They make me so happy.
What's in a Mai
Uh,
Tai again?
so it's rum and then it's this syrup called orgeat, which is like an almond syrup.
Okay.
Um and then like an orange liqueur and lime.
Ooh,
And
that
then
sounds
sometimes you
awesome.
put simple syrup. It's on like the more sour side,
Okay.
but it's very delicious.
Yeah, I
Where
don't
we
think I've
met
ever had
the
one.
Trader Sam's, like they
Yeah,
make a delicious one. The Mai Tai is like very much like the sort of stereotypical like tiki drink that every place makes.
I love
Um,
that.
but there are, but they're also like you'll run into like I don't know if you have them out west, but Bahama Breeze is like a chain restaurant we have here where
Mm,
it's like Caribbean themed. So like they make one, but it's not kind of like what I would know like a Mai Tai as. Like a lot of places just make them and it just tastes like coconut, and it's just
yeah.
like kind of a term they throw around for like a tropical drink. But yeah, if you get the chance, Trader Sam's right there. Yeah,
Okay,
you're not
good
going
to
to do
know.
that. I can
Good
tell
to
right there.
know.
It's not. Um, and I thought I had one more, but I don't. So that's it.
Well, great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really let everybody down. Um, smalltownfailingpodcast.com, or I think Smalltown Failing I also own. And then I forget, I have it somewhere, but like whackbitches.org or something like that. It's out there. Yeah, by all means, check that one out. So if you go there, you can get links to the YouTube page also, which the last 10 plus episodes are up there now that we're recording video. So please, by all means, go give that a look. Cameo, if you're looking for a cameo, a
Hell yeah.
beautiful gift. Smalltownfailingpodcast@gmail.com if you want to send a longer email. Evan, anything you want to plug? You want to give out your home address or anything along
Yeah,
those
home
lines?
address, social security number. Everyone get a pencil and paper. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not. I don't have a huge online presence anymore, just because of being a teacher. But
Yeah.
what I will say, and I talked about this with Joe last time we recorded, but we are, my boyfriend and I are working on a podcast that we have not announced or released yet, but it's in the works, and we're pretty excited about it.
Nice.
It's going to be called "So Who Goes Home," and it's going to begin with a podcast about America's Next Top Model.
Mm.
Because we both love America's Next Top Model, but we also love shows like competition reality shows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be. We liked that name because Tyra always says it.
Yeah.
When she's doing the "So Who Goes Home." After she like just berates both girls standing in front of her that are left. Um, and it also sort of like also can be leaned into other reality competition shows of like, who goes home that week kind of
Oh,
thing.
everything. Yeah. Like that's
So
pretty much every. Yep.
yeah, so that's kind of like what we're thinking. And it's almost in this phase where we're going to start like actually making episodes. We're just getting everything finalized. So
Nice. Are you going to be
yeah.
talking about, and I know you told me and I'm drawing a blank right now, but are you kind of starting from the beginning with Top Model, or is it going to be more the current stuff, or?
Yeah, we're going to go probably through most of it, I would say.
Nice.
Um, I'm on the fence about season 1 just because the winner is like very problematic. But
Was that Adrian Curry? Was she the Yeah, I get that.
she's a
Although
little
I would love
strange.
to talk about the one episode where the I think it's the woman and it's kind of her first time away from home, and I remember like she makes out or maybe even has like sex with some other guys, and
Hell
then she
yeah.
has a call with her boyfriend. And
Mm-hmm.
like Leslie and I still like quote that where he's on the phone with her and he's like, "You had sex?" And just like this guttural, like I like don't even know how to describe the sound that comes out of him. Like that
It's
was
iconic.
yeah. Um so yeah, by all means, like once that gets going, I 100% want to force my way into it. So
I was gonna
please
say
just
you
let
should
me know.
come on for literally that episode, and then
Yeah, that
I
it's
can
the
bring.
reason I asked. Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, we talked about this before, and I said 100%. So
Yeah.
you're not forcing your way in at all.
Mm.
There's also, I don't know if you ever saw the season, but that scenario has happened a couple times, and there's another
Oh,
season. I think
sure.
it's season 6, where this one contestant Nena, who talks about her boyfriend John all the time,
Hmm.
she like kisses a model during a photo shoot. It's really lame. It's like the tiniest little kiss ever, but she like has to call him and be like, "John, I kissed someone." And he's like, "What? Like, what are you talking about? You kissed someone?" And she's like, "John, it's not a big deal, John." Anyway, it's amazing. So you can come on for that one too. Just
I
keep that
do.
thread going.
I don't remember how far we got. Like we definitely watched like the first 3 or 4 seasons, but I can't remember
Okay.
like when we kind of fell off. And it was a long time ago. So honestly, even if I was watching the same episodes again, it would probably feel like new to me.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, what I will say is what I will force you to do is watch season 6 at least, because in our opinion, it's the best season ever, and
yeah,
it's just full of crazy characters, and I think you would love it, and Leslie
nice.
too. You would both think it's like hilarious.
For sure. Awesome.
Okay.
What is the name again? Who goes home next?
So who goes home?
Soho goes home. Perfect. Terrific. I lied. Actually, I do have an email and I feel terrible because I'm an awful human being. So this one comes from Justin, who I have met IRL.
Cool.
But we'll kind of get it as we're reading. Hi, Joe. You asked for some listener engagement, so here it is. My name is Justin. Justin, you know my wife, Elisa, who amazing. Like Elisa is one of the most like kindest people I've ever met, and I've met Justin a couple times and
Aw.
seems equally as kind. So I can't say enough good things about them. You know my wife Elisa better than me, and you two collaborated on the BGH meetup in Chicago long time ago. So yeah, she was a representative for a local brewery and like helped pretty much do the entire thing. So I again can't thank her enough.
Wow.
We both continue to be huge fans of your work and listen to Small Town Failing regularly. We both sincerely appreciate the time and effort you put into making the show. Although we haven't quite taken the dive and checked out the Hallmark channel or subscribed to Lifetime, you generally describe the films pretty all right, and your guests, both new and known, are legitimately interesting and great to hear from. I'm sure you get some good reactions when you tell people you host a podcast reviewing Lifetime and Hallmark movies, but you really haven't lived until you tell someone you listen to a podcast about them, but don't actually watch the films. It's a unique experience being an S- SFT head, which I'm 100% going to use that now. Question: which actor from these movies would you want or would you most want to interview or guest host with? Who seems like they would be the best hang? So yeah, I mean, it feels like a cop out, but definitely Ashley Williams from this movie seems amazing.
100%.
The other one that comes to mind is Jodie Sweetin. Like,
Oh yeah.
I love her, and
Yeah.
especially like around everything that was going around with Black Lives Matters and things like that. Like, she got super involved, and I like it gave me a whole new level of respect for her. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Like Bruce Campbell's done a bunch of these. Like, I think he would be super fun to
Yeah.
have in. Colin Ferguson, who has not done them in a while, but he used to be on the show Eureka, and I just find him to be one of the most delightful people
Oh
that
right.
is in
Yeah, yeah.
movies. You would probably recognize him. So yeah, those would be kind of mine. Anybody else that pops in your head? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I was gonna say Jodie Sweetin as well. After you
Yeah,
said that, I was like, oh, that's such a good choice.
yeah.
And
She's
yeah, the I'm sorry. Oh, I feel so terrible. Ashley Allison, who is it for this movie?
which oh yeah, don't worry, I have to look it up too while we're talking because I forget names like the moment I stop looking at them.
Yeah,
Ashley Williams is her
Ashley
name.
Williams. Honestly, like, I mean, that question I feel like couldn't have come at a better time. Like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
she's easily like the most memorable person I've seen. I mean, the limited number of movies I've seen from this, but
Hmm.
like even like I mean, I listen to your show. I don't always watch the movie, but I
Yeah,
listen to it, and even like I feel like across the board, it seems like she's the one with the most star power. You
yeah.
know?
And I appreciate it. And I'm glad Justin kind of mentioned that too, because I've always tried to make it like you don't have to watch these movies
Yeah.
to enjoy the show. And and again, I love Hallmark movies and I really enjoy them, but I don't think it's giving anything away that like normally you kind of know how they're gonna end. So like I don't feel like I'm spoiling much when we talk through them.
Nah.
But then he wraps up, thanks again. You're a funny and talented guy and hope you maintain the motivation to keep going. Justin. And then he says, P.S. I also enjoy following you on Strava, but with one caveat. In my early 20s, I dated a girl who lived in Stonebridge apartments. So every time I see you run, your run map pop up, it sends chills down my spine that reminds me of that messy, unhealthy relationship with the blue-haired emo girl. Please
Damn.
rest easy knowing your personal physical achievements frequently make me feel regret, Dick. um, so yeah, Elisa and Justin live in Chicago. I live in the suburbs. So on Strava, which is like a running app that I use to kind of track my runs, it shows kind of your route. And apparently he used to date a woman that lived, right down the block from me. So
that's wild.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm giving you nightmares every time I get motivated to go out. But awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. And yeah, by all means, smalltownfailingpodcast@gmail.com if you have a question or comment. Love getting it. I'm very excited that Justin sent one in, and I hope to see them both soon.
Yeah.
And Evan, thank you as always for coming on. I feel like we have a new theme now that we're going to become Ashley Williams heads
anytime.
or
Seriously.
something, so we'll do that. Speaking of, I'm gonna wrap up the first three movies of the what the hell was that the thing that I did on here. Oh, I shouldn't have brought this up.
Oh God.
Do you know what I'm talking
Can I
about?
help you with this? Tell me more, and then we can.
It's they're a series of Hallmark movies where the wedding veil whatever, we're gonna get to the last in the original trilogy of that in the near future, and they got a couple other guests that are already planned, so I'm very excited about that. But Evan, always a pleasure. Thank you for doing this. I know it's a time commitment, so
Oh my God, I love it. No, this is a blast. I always love coming on here. I want to say too, like, I know we've talked about this off, but just to kind of keep the good vibes going from Justin's very nice email, but I am always this takes a lot of work to do a podcast, as most people who have done one know. And I give you a lot of credit for keeping this so consistent and like keeping it going. And it's especially as like a one-man show, that's a lot to like plan and coordinate with your guests and like getting people figured out. So I'm really like honestly super proud of you, because it's very inspiring too, because it's like I know how much work it is, and like obviously I have not succeeded with it. So yeah, I think it's awesome. So like I love hanging out with you and everything, but like it's even more exciting because I just know how much you put time and effort into it. So I'm always super stoked to be on here.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it feels a little easier where it's just me, because like I can obviously work around my schedule, and then whoever's on, we figure out a time.
Yeah.
I think coordinating outside, but for me, it's always been like, if this starts getting boring or like a task, then I'm done. But right now, hey, why not?
Yeah.
Perfect. So no, I appreciate that. That is super sweet. And
Sure.
I always love having you on, and it's more of just like a kind of catch up than actually like, doing something.
100%.
That makes sense.
It totally does.
So I think the next episode will be the last movie in the original Wedding Veil trilogy, although there's like 6 now. So Colleen is going to be returning for that. So look for that. And yeah, I think that'll do it. All right. Thanks everybody. And thank you again, Evan.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Bye.